and welcome to the newest episode of Before They Knew Better with DIY Magazine. My name's Lisa Wright, and this is my co-host and producer, Giles Bidder.
Hello!
Today we are speaking to three-time BRIT nominee Cat Burns. Cat is only 23, but she has already lived quite a life, as her multiple BRIT nominations will probably attest. She spoke to us about growing up in Streatham, about going to the BRIT school, and she also spoke to us quite candidly about the challenges of trying to break into the pop world as somebody with an autism diagnosis, a world that is notoriously very demanding socially, very demanding in terms of you being an outgoing person that puts herself out there, and how she has managed to work with those things, work with her own neurodiversity, and overcome those challenges. And she is overcoming them, I mean, in a pretty massive way. She is heading into debut album Early Twenties, which is a very helpful album title for a podcast such as this. That is out on July the 12th. And we spoke to Cat about her teenage years. We asked Cat Burns, as always on Before They Knew Better, to bring in a photo, a song, and an object from those times. And the photo's adorable, and the song and the object are interesting windows into the psyche of, I'm going to say, one of the sort of most successful rising artists. I mean, she's gone on tour with Ed Sheeran. You don't really get much bigger than old Shezza these days, do you? If you are handpicked by Sheeran, I think it's safe to say Cat Burns probably going to be okay in the career. So as we wait for Cat Burns' debut album, Early Twenties, give it a pre-order and a pre-save now. Let us hand over to the woman herself on the newest episode of Before They Knew Better with DIY Magazine. Before we take you down memory lane, so you just announced the first album proper, well, I guess that's actually quite fitting because that's called Early Twenties, and we will be talking about the time just before that, before you have reached such a formative stage. But yeah, how has it been sort of finally getting that all announced out into the world?
It's been really exciting. I mean, you only get to do your debut album once, so it's been received really well, actually. So now it's just kind of prepping for the lead up to it actually like coming out and people hearing it. So very exciting.
Do you think of your early, I mean, you're still in your early 20s really, but like, is the first part of that kind of what you imagined it would be like when you were little and you were thinking that, oh, you know, being in your 20s sounds so grown up and old. Is it like that in real life?
No, I still feel very young. I think when I was younger, I always thought this time of your life you'd be like a lot mentally older or older than you actually are. And then now I'm here, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I still feel very young.
Yeah,
mentally.
I'm still an unformed thing. It's weird, isn't it? Because I think like I always imagined that there would be an age that you would hit when like everything just sort of sunk into place, but also like when older people stopped feeling so sort of like mature and like they had their shit together. Whereas even now, like I'm in my 30s and I look at like people in their 50s and I go like, then that will be the time when finally everything works. And I feel like every decade you just kind of like notch up that age where everything is supposed to click into place a little bit more. Like, were you a kid that always kind of like wanted to be a grown-up?
I actually don't think so. I think I actually really enjoyed, I don't know, actually, it's a good question.
Did you like school?
No, I didn't. I didn't enjoy school. I didn't really like the idea of like learning something really intensely and then having one test and that one test determining whether you know it and like whether you're smart. Yeah. That was just like a lot of pressure and I didn't do well with tests. So I just didn't like the concept of school and that type of way of learning because that's just not how my brain processes information.
Yeah. I mean, you grew up in Streatham, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as someone that didn't grow up in London, I always sort of thought that it would be mad growing up in like the middle of such a big city and just having access to everything. Like, do you think that you appreciated like being a Londoner?
I think so. I mean, Streatham was a normal area. I think I was lucky that there was things so accessible, like just being able to go in central London with your friends and like go to Westfield or go to particular places and go shopping and go and eat and like and just having things at your fingertips. But I guess in comparison to other cities, a lot of those places were even closer, whereas it's still a bit of a journey to get to, like going across London from South London is just something I would never do.
Yeah.
And it's not until I don't live in London anymore that I would maybe go to those areas more than I would when I lived in South London. So it's like certain things, you kind of stay in and around your area, or central, you don't really kind of go much further than that.
So you're saying that, you know, you're quite a sort of law-abiding, rule-abiding child. Like, did that just go for sort of across the board? Like, were you someone who was quite sort of studious and, you know, kept along the straight and narrow?
Yeah, I was. I didn't really get into much trouble. When I was younger, I was just quite quiet, but loved performing arts and stuff like that. So that was where I could be and was a bit louder in like those places, but generally I was quite quiet.
Yeah. What was your introduction to performing?
When I was probably about 5 or something, there was like a summer school that my mum would put me and my sister in up in Wales. It was like a little summer academy, kind of like Stagecoach, but it wasn't Stagecoach basically, but it was like a family run one. And that was kind of my first introduction to the performing arts and singing and plays and things like that.
That is quite far, isn't it? Do you know how your mum found out about that school?
My family live in Wales. That's where they were born. My mum was born in Wales. So we go up there quite a lot. So when we found out that, I think it might have been a family friend or someone known within the area decided to start the academy, and then my mum always loved performing arts as well. So she was like, why don't you guys do this? And then put us in it pretty much every summer, probably to get rid of us for a bit of time, but popped us in there.
Can you remember like was it like a sort of, you'd put on a play in a week or something, or what did you do there?
Yeah, we do like musicals and stuff. There was like a little studio, like recording studios that they had. So I could record different things. I think I remember recording Breaking Free from High School Musical there. Nice. I think my mum has the CD for that somewhere.
B-side?
So they recorded it.
B-side for the album, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe a little deluxe. Maybe a deluxe.
As a 5-year-old, I would imagine that is quite a sort of A, very formative, B, maybe slightly overwhelming if you're quite a sort of reserved child. Like, how did you find, like, was that something where you just naturally were like, oh, okay, this is my thing, like, these are my people, the stage people?
I think it was quite natural. I think when I went into the recording session and got to just sing, I think that was where I had a bit more confidence and just sort of started to sing. I think general life I found overwhelming, but then when it came to singing and things like that, that was kind of the space where I didn't find it overwhelming to sing.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of amazing. I think like there's so many kids, I mean, myself included, really. Like I used to go and do like quite a similar summer school thing that was in this tiny little village called Wivenhoe. And you'd have 2 weeks and you'd have to do an entire show in the 2 weeks and you'd do everything in it. And like I was a proper little nerd at school, but then that was the place where like all of the things that kind of made you a bit weird at school were the things that were celebrated in those places, because, you know, you were super extroverted in certain ways and people liked, you know, singing songs from musicals in the breaks and doing all of this stuff that would like make you an absolute dweeb, like when you were just at high school. But then like that felt like a place where it was really kind of encouraged and you found other people that liked that as well. Like, was that somewhere where you kind of started to make like good mates and to kind of embrace like certain sides of yourself? I
think so. I mean, off the top of my head, I cannot remember any of the names, nor can I recall any faces of those people there. But I'm sure I made some friends. I'm sure 5-year-old me made some friends there, or maybe I didn't because I didn't really speak. So I probably didn't. I think it was a place where it definitely helped me. I think performing arts helped me come out of my shell.
Yeah.
A bit more in it, just within myself.
Did you come home and did you want to start writing your own stuff? Were you kind of writing, I don't know, at that age, like you probably don't even know you're doing it, but when you're writing sort of poems or songs or kind of like a journal, were you writing at that age?
I think I started to write when I was maybe around 10 or 11. Just random things that probably didn't make any sense and just sort of putting words together. And that was kind of when I wanted to explore sort of making my own songs. I think up until then I just enjoyed like singing and didn't really know like about songwriting until my brain developed a little bit more.
Yeah. Can you remember the first thing that you like, have you got an early memory of like writing sort of childhood songs or anything that was like in the early seeds of becoming the songwriter that you are now?
There was one song, I think it was just kind of like, I don't even know, I think it was just something stupid, just didn't make any sort of sense. I think it was like just like about my life, and I don't know, I tried to make it like really deep and poetic, but like, I just wasn't that way yet. I didn't have the skills.
You were 10, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think a particularly deep and poetic 10-year-old is maybe
Troubled.
more of a worry than it is than it is a blessing.
Yeah.
That was up in Wales every summer. Was there a point when you were like, I don't want this to just be a summer thing, like I want this to be like my everyday life?
Yeah, I think it was when I went to the open day for Brit School that I then kind of saw that was an opportunity to be able to do that every day, and kind of have that space to be able to pursue what you love every day. I didn't really, I kind of thought it was something I wanted to do, but I didn't really know how I could go about doing it until I kind of saw the school and was like, oh, this seems like something really fun to be able to be a part of if I got in. So then I applied.
Brit School's one of those places where like, because I think when you think of stage schools, a lot of the time it's like very sort of jazz hands, kids from fame, whereas like Brit School always seemed like the cool one. Like, you know, people that came from there were doing like cool stuff. Like it wasn't all kind of musical theatre, super...
It's a bit more indie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit more like indie and alternative, and like, you know, people were doing loads of different genres of music, and the people that have come out of there have been like doing really different stuff, but like credible stuff. Like, what was it like on the inside?
I think there was an element of it being like fame. I think the sort of musical theatre side of the school definitely had that. I think a lot of people in those strands were like more extroverted and more like they would sing in and around the school, and that's probably where that reputation like came from. But yeah, there were like loads of other strands that weren't anything to do with like performing. It was kind of like media and lighting and stage stuff and all kind of things like that. So you kind of had people from all different parts, and I think that's probably the best thing about it, that you could have access to so many different people. So if you wanted a video filmed or something, you could go to someone in media and ask for their help.
That's cool.
Or if you can't play an instrument, you could ask somebody who did play an instrument, could you play this gig with me? So it was very like collaborative in that way. I think that's one of the best things about Brit.
What was your defining moment at school? I mean, it's fine, there might not be one, but was there a defining moment of maybe it was like friends that you made, or like a song that you wrote, or a time where you thought, okay, yeah, I feel like me now. I feel like I have like an identity for myself. Were there any of those moments then?
I think it probably was when I was in like year 12. I put on like a show at like my local. There was like a venue in Herne Hill called Off the Cuff, and I put on a show because I made a little EP, and then I kind of went around the school and asked everybody to come to it, and a lot of people came, and it felt like a very that kind of felt like a moment for me, because I was like, oh wow, those people came to come and see this, and I put this on myself, and it kind of showed me that I have the want to do this. And like I just emailed different places, and whoever came back to me, then I kind of created it. So I think that was quite a defining moment for me to kind of show myself what kind of person I am.
And like putting yourself out there, and like absolutely up to you if you're comfortable talking about this, but like I was reading that obviously last year you posted saying that you'd had an autism diagnosis, and like obviously that's something where putting yourself out there and kind of, you know, that sort of side of, you know, being quite brave in those things, I'd imagine maybe that's something that is more of a struggle. Is that something where you've had to really sort of contend with it?
Absolutely. I think my career, probably all the things I have to do within it, directly sort of, I don't know what the word is, but directly sort of, exactly, are directly at odds with my autism. So I think I'm kind of constantly trying to figure out ways to work with it. And so I, especially at that time, I was very proud of myself for showing that I think if it's something I love and I get fixated on it, I just want to do it. And I can very easily not really see the barriers in place. I can or ignore them and just sort of try and just go for it. But I definitely think that's kind of a positive in that regard.
Being super focused on something, like being really detail orientated, things like that, are there kind of, I guess also because there might be people listening to this that also are autistic, that, you know, maybe kind of want to do jobs like this. Are there certain things where you've actually found that it's been quite beneficial in its own way?
I think if it's something that you really want to do and it's your like special interest, I think the pros is that you're going to be really focused on it and you're going to find every which way possible to make it happen. I think then obviously the cons or the harder parts of it would be kind of dealing with the other voices and the other cooks in the kitchen that might have a varying opinion, where you have to kind of learn how to navigate communicating your point across and still validating other people's. And that's where obviously the difficulty with communication comes in, and it can cause you to have big feelings and meltdowns and things like that. And I think, but if you're kind of prepared for that and you have your ways of coping and handling kind of those big emotions, then there's no reason why you can't do it. Because I think the pros are that you will get there, and then you can create a space that is respectful of that, of how you work.
Is that the same with being on stage? Like, do you still, I don't know, do you think that there are sort of hurdles to overcome when you've got a lot of like eyes on you? Is that something that you've been aware of?
I think what's interesting with how my kind of autism shows up in me is it's just sort of general day-to-day life that I find overwhelming the most, and like speaking and things like that is what I find the hardest. But performing is it's just kind of like I don't know, I'm like a duck. Underneath I might be like this, but above I seem really calm. So when I'm like performing, I don't really, the eyes on me, I don't find too overwhelming. If I haven't prepared, then I might be a bit more like nervous, of like, I might forget the words. But if I've prepared and stuff like that, then I'm not. It's usually like once I've finished performing and I now have to socialize with people after I've performed. That's what I'm anxious about, rather than the actual performance, which is quite interesting.
I was just watching your Glastonbury video go, and it was just like awesome. There must be such an amazing memory. Have you been able to watch that footage?
Yeah, I pretty much. Yeah, I watched it the next day. I think I was like, I wonder what it seemed like. Yeah. It was really fun. I was genuinely not expecting such a big turnout. I was really sort of expecting like a few people, because festivals are so hit and miss. Like if you're on at the same time as somebody else and people really want to see that person, you just might not get anyone. So I was very much expecting not that many people. So when I saw like that massive crowd, I was like, oh wow,
You took it in your stride. You look so comfortable up there.
I definitely wasn't, but
really?
I'm good at hiding. I'm good at hiding my emotions.
Are you someone that used to go to a lot of like festivals and gigs and stuff when you were younger?
Surprisingly, no. I think I went to 2. Unsurprisingly now with my diagnosis, but festivals I found very overwhelming in terms of like not having a clear exit, just being in the middle of a crowd and looking to my left and right and seeing no way to get out. Just spin me.
I mean, that could be genuinely quite scary.
Yeah.
Just I think for everyone across the board. What were the 2 that you went to?
I went to the festival when that existed. And then I went to Reading Festival, I think, either that same year or the next year. And I just went to see like specific artists. And luckily the artists that I went to see were like big, but there was like, it wasn't like cramped. So it wasn't too like uncomfortable. But still, I was just sort of like, this is a lot of money, this food and all these things that costs a lot. And I just thought, that's not really, I'll just watch them at home.
Yeah, I'll just watch them at home and then become an artist that is successful enough that I get to be on the stage and I don't have to pay for a ticket.
Yeah.
So you have brought in a photo, a song and an object for us. And the photo that you showed us is, I mean, adorable for a start. And how old is Cat in this photo?
I must have been like 1, maybe 2.
Oh my God, properly tiny.
Yeah, I was a youth. I was very, very small. Everyone in my family would always say that I just had big eyes and I would just sort of blankly stare at people, and I didn't speak to people or show much. Like, you know, if sometimes you see babies and they're like, "Oh my God, hello," and they smile and they laugh and giggle. I just wasn't that child. I just didn't move really.
Do you remember? I mean, obviously, like when I think everyone always says that like you start to sort of form memories when you're about 3 or 4, and I feel like I actually have basically no memories until I'm about like 6, so I don't know what's happened there. But like, what's the sort of earliest age that you remember?
The earliest age I remember, I think I might have been 3 or 4, maybe 5. It was like, I think it was in a pram and my mum was like pushing me onto the train. I was with my granddad. And that moment, my granddad decided that I was too big to be in a pram and he took me out of the pram. And then I think we left the pram on the train, which isn't okay. But he was like, "You're too old to be in a pram now." So
enough of that.
He was like, "It's time for you to walk." I think my legs might have been, I was quite a long child. So maybe my legs were like dangling out of the pram. And then he was just like, "Enough is enough. You need to start walking properly now."
Love the phrase "a long child."
I think I was quite
just
long.
A very long girl.
I think I was.
Were you close with your grandparents?
Yeah. It's like a second dad.
Siblings.
Yeah, I have an older sister.
What was the house dynamic?
Yeah, had an older sister.
That was a good older sister. Was she like a protective one, or like what was her vibe?
I pretty much kind of molded myself into her. I used to copy everything that she did. Nice. She was kind of like my blueprint of how to be. She didn't really like that, and probably didn't really like me until I was maybe like 13 or 14, when I could sort of form my own.
22.
Yeah. But we were quite close. Still are. Definitely have gotten closer as we've gotten older. But when I was younger, I just kind of looked at her and copied everything that she would do. But we've got like a 6-year age gap, so that's probably why she didn't like me copying her.
Yeah. Were you trying to sort of like hang out with her and her mates and stuff then? Would you be like trying to tag along on the trips up to town?
Not even. I think it would just be like, I think the age gap was just annoying. Like if we were going to see like Harry Potter, she's a massive Harry Potter fan. And if we were at like the cinema and like I couldn't hold my bladder because I was a child, I would then be like, I need to go to the toilet. And then my mum would be like, okay, you need to take your sister to the toilet. And then I'd feel bad. And then she'd be like, oh, and then it's like things like that.
What kind of music was she into?
We're all into the same thing, really, just like R&B, 2000s type of pop. She loves pop.
No garage.
No, actually, she's not a garage girl. She likes her R&B, her pop, and anything within those realms.
Big in the noughties.
Yeah. Was she the one that was sort of first, if you were trying to copy her on a lot of stuff, was that where you were kind of getting your first musical like influences and loves? Can you remember what they were?
Yeah, I would always kind of get her hand-me-downs. So I would get like her old like Sony Ericsson, where she would like put it in loads of like songs, and then I would just listen to the songs that were already on there. So that's how I kind of know random 2000s songs of the time, of just like random Neo songs and just like old Destiny's Child stuff, and just like loads of like American R&B stuff. Kind of came from just getting her old stuff that already had the songs downloaded on there.
So the track that you have chosen is, now I am not familiar with Tori Kelly, so you are going to have to fill us in here. But what was the track, and why did you pick this as a significant one from your youthful days?
Tori Kelly is like an American artist who, at the start of her career, kind of made like a lot of like acoustic pop music, where it was very guitar led. Like her first EP, she just created in her bedroom, which I thought was really cool. And I kind of first found her when I was like maybe 10 or 11, when YouTube was kind of coming into its prime, and she would make lots of YouTube videos. And that song, I just remember thinking this was just a really well written song, and really wanting to, when I was to then make music, I really then wanted to create songs that people could feel like it was written for them, and people could really connect and relate. And that was where I kind of wanted to make relatable music and like have people really feel something when they listen to my stuff. So that was quite a key song for me. Was
the fact that she was sort of doing stuff on YouTube, do you feel like that was kind of important in kind of showing you that, you know, you could just do things yourself? Yeah, I think her and she would kind of collab with these other two guys, which I forget their name, but there was kind of like a group of singers on YouTube who just wanted to take power into their own hands and just create, and they'd kind of have their own equipment, and they would just make stuff from their bedroom and not be reliant on companies or anything like that. It was just sort of building a fan base organically, which I thought was really important. And I mean, it's lasted the test of time because those same people still follow her and support. So I think it's very very key. Was that quite weird then, when you had like, you know, a massive TikTok song, like having watched, you know, these people kind of like have these big internet moments, and then having one yourself? What was that experience like? I think thinking about it now, it was quite a whirlwind. It just happened so quickly and kind of just unexpectedly, and I think it's probably how those people felt as well. You could really have planned it or expected it to happen, just sort of came out of nowhere. But it was kind of more of a reminder to me to make sure that I just create and put the art out there, because it could be found at a random time in the future. It might not be, you know, right then that you make it, that it does well. It might be a year down the line or two. Yeah, that's the weirdest thing about TikTok, I find, is that like some of the people that have had like massive sort of viral things recently, like I remember there's a guy called Sparky Deathcap
Los Campesinos,
was just he was in this like he's in Los Campesinos, yeah. But I remember distinctly like buying that EP off MySpace when he just used to like, because he had like 4 fans, so like you just MySpace message him and he'd just like burn a copy of this EP and like print off the artwork and send it to you directly. And like I only did that because I was a massive Los Campesinos fan, and then that's just got picked up like last year, and now he's signed to a major like 15 years after that first thing. It's so bonkers. Like I still don't really understand how these things get excavated from like, you know, the what's the word, like archives of music. Like, do you know how Go ended up just like being found and taken like that?
Still to this day, no. I think I kind of think maybe there was sort of like a mini trend going on online with like young people, like 14 to 17-year-olds maybe, that would just have made their own little trend that then started to sort of grow within that space, and then it just sort of kept growing, and then a large part of the community on TikTok just then continued to share it, and it then just sort of started to take its own it just sort of did its own thing. I had no kind of control, or like I didn't know it was going to be as big as it got.
Yeah, very, very bonkers. But yeah, like you say, I guess like then you're just like, okay, everything I do has to be great, just in case.
Yeah.
In 50 years' time, whatever the 2070 version of TikTok is, just, you know, full on just eye chip robots are gonna pick up an album track from Early Twenties. So this album would better be banging.
Yep,
which I'm
that's
sure
the
that
goal.
It is. So this Tori Kelly, just going back to the Tori Kelly thing. So why that song in particular? What is it about that track specifically of hers that speaks to you?
I think that was kind of my first experience of really like loving acoustic led songs, where it was just sort of like vocal and acoustic guitar with like a tiny bit of drums, and just seeing the power of like there's kind of like an unspoken rule of like, if you could have a song that has loads of production, but if you're able to strip it back and just have one instrument and the vocal, and people still enjoy it, then you know that you've made like a really strong song. I think that was kind of my first experience hearing a song where I was like, this is just so strong and it doesn't need anything. And I would love to make songs that are like that, where it could just be guitar and vocal, or be really stripped back and still have that same like emotiveness that it has.
Veering neatly into the object that you have brought, which is your school blazer, is that the sort of music that you were trying to make whilst maybe you had just got home from school in said blazer sitting in your house?
That was definitely the music I was listening to, and kind of when I was trying to teach myself the guitar, or trying to learn some sort of instrument, or any beats that I would find on YouTube and stuff, it was always kind of that guitar led stuff. And I think that was then how I kind of found Ed Sheeran, because he had A-Team and those beautiful guitar songs around that time as well. So that was where I was just sort of starting to listen to that, and I found that music really relaxing and really really detailed, but broad enough for people to still be able to relate to it in their own way, which is then how I wanted to be as a songwriter.
Those kinds of those songs you'd listen to on the school bus or the train or the walk, those are some serious like cognitive memories, like some memories you can really grab a handle of. Absolutely.
And those, Tori Kelly and Ed Sheeran are those kind of for me.
But most people, even though they have memories of walking around after school listening to that, they don't then get taken on tour by the person that they were listening to.
Yeah.
So that must have been, if Ed Sheeran was someone that you were like listening to from when you were a teen, like doing those tour dates must have been absolutely mental.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was very shocked to find out that I was going to be supporting him. It's interesting how he just always has an ear to the ground when it comes to new music and new artists that he likes and stuff, and kind of always wants to show his support. So I was just really grateful that he wanted me to support him, and that kind of helped me just even learning how to perform on stages that big. and having to move around. I think prior to that, I was always with a mic stand, and so then I had to kind of learn. His stage was round, so I had to kind of learn how to work a stage and perform to audiences in different countries, and it was a really great opportunity to be able to do that.
Wild. Did he give you any pearls of wisdom?
I mean, just kind of, I think he's a push to do more. So there's a venue that you really want to do, just book it 2 years in advance and then see. Like, why not just try? And I think that was really nice advice, to just kind of get out of your head a little bit and just try. If there's somewhere that you want to go, don't see it as too unachievable or somewhere really, really far in advance. Just kind of start working towards that now. And that was kind of the main piece of advice I think I got from him.
Which venue is that for you right now?
I mean, my dream venue, I think since I was a kid, was the O2 Brixton, because it's local to me. And I just would love to put on a really, really cool show in my hometown area. So that's always been like a place for me.
That feels very achievable, I'd say.
I think so. Give me a few years. I think I should get there.
Yeah. You'll be fine. Great. That'll be reopened and you'll be cracking. So this school blazer, which school were you? What was the blazer like? How old are you when you're wearing this?
So I went to a school called Dunraven in Streatham Hill, and the blazer's blue, and the whole uniform was like blue and grey, but the blazer's blue, and it's got writing from my last day of school of just well wishes and people wishing me luck, because I left earlier than everybody else to go to Brit school, because you start Brit school in year 10. So I had that blazer from year 7 to year 9, and then on my last day of year 9, everyone wrote on it.
Nice.
And then I kept the blazer as memorabilia.
That's cute. That must have been like, if you were going off to go to the Brit school, that's like the equivalent of having like a celebrity in your class. I think like I would have been really in awe of the kid that was going off to like be a pop star at that point. Like, did it feel like this kind of, oh my God, I'm going off to do it, even though you're only 10, like what a sort of mad thing to be going to do?
I guess so. I think I was more just like nervous, excited. I didn't know like what kind of people I would meet at Brit school, because I think most London sort of secondary schools really do humble you, like the sense of humour people have, and like people pick on you, and you just sort of have to have a really tough skin and kind of be a little bit more like coy and reserved about your interests a little bit in kind of non-performing arts schools. So I was intrigued to see if that was going to be the same when I went to Brit, but everybody was really loud about their interests and really excited by them. So it was quite a jump. So leaving, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just going, and tried to sort of dumb it down or make it seem smaller. And then when I kind of got there, I was able to be a bit louder about the things that I enjoyed.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, that like there's definitely an age sort of around like the start of secondary school where it's like, if you actually care about stuff, that's like the absolute prime bullying territory. I think like I always had like, because I used to read a lot, and I always used to get called the walking dictionary by like the kids in my class as like a diss. And obviously now I'm just like, well, yeah, look at me now, I'm using all my words really well. But at the time, that was like the most offensive thing that they could think to call me, just someone who liked books and knew some words. It's very, I always think like, now I look back and I just think, that wasn't really an insult, was it? That's actually quite like, if somebody called me that now, I'd be quite proud of the fact that I like had a good vocabulary. Brit school felt like a sort of finding of your people slightly.
Yeah, a lot more.
What would you have done if you hadn't have got into Brit school, or if you hadn't have kind of wanted to be a musician? Was there any other career paths on the cards?
I probably would have gone to some sort of media uni and studied probably TV, and something within the TV film space, because I just love TV and I love films, and would love to be a part of that world as well.
Have you had any syncs?
Yeah.
Have you had any of your songs being synced on TV or film?
More reality shows than films as of yet. I'm awaiting the day for that to occur. That will be a very fun day.
Yeah. What would be your ideal type of movie that you'd hear a Cat Burns song on?
I mean, right now, I think probably like a young sort of coming of age film, or a film with like sort of people in their 20s. I think with the music that is right now that I'm creating, I think it's very much lives within that world. And then as I get older, I guess that will change. Maybe it will become a drama,
Thriller.
some sort, or a thriller. You never know.
Have you had your music playing in the background of some like dramatic Love Island moments then?
I have, yes.
What was that like to watch for the first time? What did you feel seeing it?
It was just weird. It was just weird. I think, especially this last season, they chose like just songs that weren't necessarily singles. It was like songs from projects. So I was like, wow, you've really like done your research and really worked with the particular things that were going on. So it was kind of like, it was nice because where I thought a song could work, that's where they put it. So it was kind of validating for my own brain to see the puzzles fit in.
Yeah. When you were writing that song, did you think that there would be two scrapping people on a reality dating show trying to say that one of them's, what is it? It's a bit of me, something like that. Maybe you could work that into a lyric in the future and then make it ideal sync territory.
I probably did, to be honest. I probably made the song and then at the end of it being like, you could hear this on like Love Island. Just because I have a very big imagination.
Just to sort of bring all of these things back together, what do you think the 1-year-old cat looking all cute in that photo would be the most proud of when she sees your current life now?
I think she'd probably be proud that I managed to do all the things I said I wanted to do, and the dreams kind of came to reality, and that I actually do speak, and that I can speak to people somewhat. I think she'd be proud. I think those are the things she'd be proud of, that I actually managed to do what I said I wanted to do.
That was Cat Burns on the latest episode of Before They Knew Better. Everyone needs to pre-order Cat Burns' debut album. It's called Early Twenties. It's coming July the 12th. While you're at it, why not give us a like and a subscribe? That means that you will get Before They Knew Better into your inbox every Tuesday morning for the next 8 weeks of this season. You can also give the physical issue of DIY Magazine a read. This issue is our April edition. It has got the excellent Bob Vylan on the cover ahead of their genuinely important third record, Humble as the Sun, which has just come out. If you look inside the magazine, we also have chats with St Vincent. We've got chats with the Murder Capital. They are giving us the lowdown on their incoming new album. We've got features with Porridge, with Girl in Red, with Wallows, with loads of people. So give the new issue of DIY Magazine a read, give us a like and a subscribe, and thank you once again to Cat Burns. Keep on listening to Before They Knew Better with DIY Magazine.